What would you do if, after 30 years of marriage, a wrongly sent email popped up on your phone, revealing that your husband had just bought a house for someone else? In that moment, a woman named Marina Carter, a devoted wife who once trusted her husband completely, sat in silence. She had built a life with him from nothing, endured years of struggle, only to see it all end with a single line of text: "Congratulations on your new home." The story you're about to hear is inspired by real events, but more than just a tale of betrayal. It's a powerful reminder for couples who may be slowly losing each other in small, everyday lies. Stay until the end to see how Marina, this betrayed wife, turned her pain into justice, and how she made her unfaithful husband face the consequences. Don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more true crime stories. That night the rain fell hard, beating against the office window, blurring everything like Marina Carter's state of mind. The clock read just past 9 p.m. The building was dark except for the soft glow from her desk lamp. At 52, Marina had spent more than half her life devoted to her job, and the man she believed was her safe harbor. Robert, her husband, had told her he needed to work late at the partner's office. She hadn't doubted him for a second, not until her phone buzzed, an email sent by mistake. "Congratulations on your new home, Mr. Robert Carter. Closing confirmed for 48 Brookside Lane." Marina read it again and again, a strange heaviness rising in her chest. They weren't buying a new house, and yet the note at the bottom made her blood run cold. "We hope the new homeowner enjoys the private garden view from the master suite." Robert hated gardens, but Marina loved them. Her dream had always been to have a little corner of her own to grow roses. He'd always laughed and said, "What a waste of time, Marina." A sharp instinct told her something was wrong. She put on her coat, turned off the lights, and left the office without a sound. Outside, the rain kept falling, headlights stretching long across the wet pavement. She didn't turn on the radio. She didn't cry. She just drove toward that unfamiliar address, every number on the sign pressing down heavier on her chest. And then, 48 Brookside Lane. A brand new two-story house painted white, the porch lined with red roses. The very flowers Robert once called messy. Warm, golden light spilled from the windows, beautiful in a way that made her feel cold. Marina turned off the engine and sat still, staring through the blurred rain. Then the door opened. Robert stepped out, smiling faintly, his shirt clinging to him in the rain. Behind him came a young woman with long hair, wrapped in a pale silk robe. She took his hand, whispered something that made him laugh, and then they kissed. Right in front of the house he had claimed was just for work. The rain poured harder, but Marina didn't move. Her hands gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. She didn't scream, didn't curse, just watched them quietly. A deep tearing ache spread through her chest. When they went back inside, she started the car. The hum of the engine blended with the sound of the rain as she drove off, almost without realizing it. On the way home, Marina cried hard. But soon the tears stopped. She pressed her lips together and a single thought formed in her mind, sharp, clear, and final. "You betrayed me, but you'll never guess what happens next." If you think betrayal only ends in tears, stay until the end of this video and see how a calm, silent woman can bring an entire cheater's world crashing down. The house was silent when Marina walked in. Outside, the rain still whispered softly, blending with the faint scent of candles drifting from the kitchen, the very fragrance she once loved. But tonight it choked her. Everything was in its place. The wedding photo on the wall, the teapot he gave her for their 10th anniversary, the tablecloth she had sewn herself. All so familiar it hurt. But to Marina now, these were no longer memories. They were evidence, proof of a woman who had trusted the wrong man. She stood there, staring at the wedding photo. In it, Robert held her hand, eyes full of love. For 30 years, she had never once doubted that look. She remembered their early days, when he was starting his business in a small rented room, and she carried the weight of everything else. She had sold her mother's necklace, even her grandmother's earrings, just to help him open his company. Back then, she'd joked, "When you make it big, buy me a little garden, okay?" He laughed and kissed her forehead. "I don't like flowers, but for you I'll try." Yet now that same man had bought a house with a garden for someone else. Marina sat down in the quiet kitchen. The stillness was heavy. Only the clock spoke. Tick, tock, tick, tock, marking each second of a life spent in sacrifice and blind faith. A tear slid down her cheek. Then another. But she didn't sob. She let them fall, each drop washing away the last trace of weakness she had left. She rose, walked into the bathroom, turned on the faucet and splashed cold water on her face. The chill cleared her mind. When she looked up, the woman in the mirror looked different. Gone was the gentle, trusting wife. In her place was a calm, unsettling stillness, a gaze stripped of illusion. "He doesn't know who he's betrayed," she whispered, her voice low but steady. The clock in the living room kept ticking. But this time for Marina, each sound wasn't the passing of time, it was the rhythm of a plan beginning to take shape. She glanced around the house one last time, drew a deep breath and switched off the lights. In that darkness, the weak woman she once was disappeared. And a new Marina Carter, calm, cold and utterly resolute, was born. Sometimes tears don't end the pain. They mark the moment a woman begins her revenge. The next morning, Robert slipped right back into his usual role. He came downstairs with that same practiced smile, smelling faintly of cologne, and kissed his wife lightly on the forehead. "I'm heading to work. Might be home late tonight." The same line, the same tone, as if nothing in the world had changed. Marina smiled softly. Her eyes were calm, almost serene. "Don't forget to eat lunch," she said, her voice light and steady. He nodded, grabbed his keys and left. The door closed, the sound of his car faded away, and the smile on Marina's lips slowly disappeared. She made herself a cup of coffee, stared at the clock and counted each tick, tock, tick, tock, before standing up and putting on her coat. She had things to do. The bank was her first stop. Marina wasn't a finance expert, but after 30 years with Robert, she'd learned to read numbers better than most. She asked for their account statements, saying she needed them for tax paperwork. The clerk smiled and printed them out. As soon as Marina scanned the list, her heart turned cold. There they were, a series of transfers, regular and identical, all to the same name, Brookside Trust. She stared at it for a long moment, as if that single line of text ended every doubt she'd tried to suppress. That afternoon, Marina called a private investigation agency. "I need someone to watch a house in the Brookside area," she said calmly. "Reason?" the man asked. Marina gave a faint smile. "Noise complaints from the neighbors. No one would ever suspect the polite, soft-spoken woman on the other end of the line." 2 days later, a sealed envelope arrived at her door. Inside was a folder of photos, grainy, taken under yellow streetlights. Robert stepping out of that house with a young woman, Chloe. They carried furniture together, shopped for groceries, laughed hand in hand. Among the documents the investigator photographed, one receipt stood out. Paya R. Carter. At the bottom, a small handwritten note. "Enjoy the garden view." Marina sat still for a long time. The late afternoon light spilled through the window, tracing the edges of her face. Cold, unmoving. And then she laughed. A short, bitter laugh with no joy in it. "He even stole my dream," she murmured. "A garden for someone else." That night, Marina inserted a small USB drive into her laptop and created a single folder, its name Black Folder. Inside, she saved every photo, every invoice, every scrap of paper, tiny fragments sharp enough to cut. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to confront him. What she needed now was the truth. And it was finally in her hands. Outside, the rain began again. And under the dim glow of a single lamp, the woman who once lived only to sacrifice now sat still. Calm, calculating, and more dangerous than ever. If you were Marina, what would you do after discovering that the man you built your life with had betrayed it all? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Marina arrived at Brookside on a cold afternoon. She posed as the interior consultant Robert had supposedly hired to help with the design. The white gate swung open, and a young woman stepped out to greet her, confident, radiant, her voice soft as the wind. "Oh, you must be the designer Robert mentioned. Come in, I just made some coffee." Marina nodded, stepping through the doorway, her heartbeat echoing in her chest. Inside, the air felt strangely familiar. Cream-colored curtains, Italian frames. a white ceramic teapot. Every piece of decor looked like it had been copied straight from the home she had lived in for 30 years. Chloe pointed to the sofa, smiling. He said he liked this style, soft, elegant. I told him his wife must have picked a lot of furniture like this. Marina's lips curved into a polite smile. Her voice was calm, almost too calm. Maybe so. Some men can't choose things on their own. They only know how to copy what was chosen by the woman before. Chloe let out a nervous laugh, not catching the weight of the words. Actually, he talks about his wife a lot, she said lightly. He says she never understood him, that she's controlling, always calculating. He told me that with me he can finally be himself. Marina placed her coffee cup gently on the table, her tone steady as a knife's edge. That's what cheating men always say. They forget, if it weren't for the woman who controlled them, they wouldn't even have the house they used to betray her. Chloe fell silent. Her eyes flickered with unease. Marina stood up, glancing slowly around the room before stopping at the window. Outside was a small garden, the kind she had once dreamed of having for herself. She spoke softly, but every word landed with precision. A man who builds two homes, one for lies and one for the consequences, will soon have to choose which one to live in. The room went so still that the ticking of the clock became deafening. Marina turned back, gave a faint, almost gentle smile and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she paused on the doorstep and looked Chloe straight in the eyes. Thank you for the talk. You've helped me understand a lot more than you think. He's lucky, you know, because this time he's finally chosen the right woman to teach him a lesson. She stepped down from the porch, the wind catching the edge of her coat as she walked to her car. The engine started, blending into the grey mist that hung over the narrow road. In the rearview mirror, the Brookside house faded from view, and all that remained was the cold steel reflection in Marina's eyes. If you were Marina, what would you do when your husband not only betrayed your love but also your dream? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Marina understood one thing clearly. To win, she didn't need violence or a dramatic scene. She had signatures, and Robert had signed a lot. The next morning, she showed up dressed in a simple, professional outfit, a neat file folder in her hand. No one knew she wasn't going to work. She was going to see a lawyer. The man behind the desk looked up and paused when he read the name, Marina Carter. She spoke crisply and without fuss. I need to separate all joint accounts and transfer the investments into my name. And I want copies of every document he's ever signed. Is there a problem with your husband? The lawyer asked. Marina smiled, cool and steady. No, just putting some money aside to invest. One by one, signatures and seals were dealt with. She sat patiently, reading each line, checking every detail. Each page became part of a perfectly legal plan of revenge. No shouting, no bloodshed required. That evening, she returned home to find Robert laughing on the phone. I've got a business trip this weekend, he said, excitement in his voice. Marina answered briefly, Funny, so do I, a short meditation retreat in the countryside. No service, no phone. Robert nodded and didn't pry. He was used to Marina not asking questions anymore. That complacency is what trapped him. 2 days later, while Robert enjoyed dinner with Chloe by the lake, wine, candlelight, soft music, Marina sat in a small downtown hotel, contracts laid out in front of her on a tidy desk. Under the warm lamp she signed 1, 2, 3. With each stroke of the pen, another asset quietly moved into her name. The company, the shares, the marital home, the savings account. One by one, they slipped from Robert's grasp without his knowledge. In the hush, the only sound was the scratch of her pen. Marina whispered to herself, as if confessing to the woman she'd once been. Every signature he used to hide his lies, I'll use to erase him. She set the pen down, closed the file and poured herself a glass of wine. In the mirror, she faced a different woman, no longer tearful but bright-eyed, cold and resolute. Marina pressed her fingertips to the glass, as if greeting that new self. The game starts now, Robert, she breathed. The clock struck 12. Another day beginning, and the first day Marina Carter was no longer the victim. Do you think silence can be the most perfect revenge? Leave your thoughts below. I want to hear your perspective. That afternoon, Robert drove home in high spirits. A new deal was about to close. Chloe was preparing dinner and everything seemed perfect. He opened the door, calling out cheerfully, Marina, I'm home. No answer. The house was unusually quiet. The dim light reflected off a bare wall. where their wedding portrait used to hang. A strange unease crept into his chest as he stepped further inside. The living room was empty. The clock on the wall gone. His favorite armchair gone. Even the wedding photo missing. He rushed upstairs, flicked on the bedroom light. Half the closet was empty, drawers stripped bare. On the desk lay a single white envelope, perfectly centered. He recognized the handwriting instantly. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside, one line written in bold, steady ink, cold as steel. "You bought her a house." "I sold your world." Robert dropped the note, snatched his phone, and opened his banking app. "This must be a mistake. A system error," he muttered. But then the red text flashed back at him. "Access denied." He tried the company account. Same thing. Panic surged. He called the accountant, then the lawyer, then the bank. Every reply drove the air from his lungs. "Your accounts have been reassigned. The authorized owner is now Mrs. Marina Carter." His heartbeat thundered, sweat breaking across his forehead. He yanked open the safe, empty. All the contracts, the papers, the deeds, gone. The house that once symbolized his success now stood hollow and cold. "Marina!" he shouted, the echo bouncing off the walls before fading into nothing. Grabbing his keys, he sped straight to Brookside. Chloe opened the door, smiling, until he said, "We have a problem." "What do you mean?" "This house. There's an issue. The deed's frozen. Marina's transferred everything into her name. Even the company." Chloe's face went pale. "What are you saying?" "You told me this house was yours." "It was mine, but she—" Chloe cut him off, hurling a stack of papers at his chest. "Not anymore, Robert. The ownership changed last week. Did you lie to me too?" She slammed the door, leaving him outside, sweating, shaking, and tasting fear for the first time in his life. The lights inside went dark. Robert sank to the curb, staring into the night as everything, his money, his status, his love, vanished in a single day. Across the city, Marina sat by the lake, a steaming cup of tea in her hands. Her phone screen lit up, Robert calling. She stared at the name for a few seconds, then quietly flipped the phone face down. Outside, the still water reflected the face of a woman once betrayed, now calm, cold, and utterly free. Marina took a slow sip of tea, gazing into the distance. "Finally," she whispered, "it's your turn to know what losing everything feels like. If you were Marina, could you stay that calm? Leave a comment below. I want to know what you would do." That morning, the city lay under a pale sun and an unusual stillness. After countless unanswered calls, Robert finally received a single message from Marina. 11 a.m. cafe across from the courthouse. He arrived early, sitting in a corner seat, nervously stirring a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. Then the door opened. Marina walked in, calm, composed. No dramatic makeup, no pretense, just a quiet confidence that made the whole cafe seem to slow down. She was no longer the patient, forgiving wife he once knew. She was a woman who had rediscovered her worth and knew exactly how to make a betrayer bow his head. "Thank you for coming," Robert began, his voice rough. I know I messed up. What happened with Chloe, it was a mistake. Just a moment of weakness. I still love you, Marina." Marina met his eyes. No anger, no mockery, just a clear, cold gaze that cut deeper than rage. "Not buying a house for me wasn't your mistake, Robert," she said evenly. "Building one for her was. Carefully, deliberately, with my money and with your lies. Month after month. That wasn't weakness. That was planning." Robert's hands tightened around his cup, his eyes red and wet. "I've lost everything. You won, Marina. Are you happy now?" Marina slid an envelope across the table, her voice steady and calm. "These are the divorce papers. I've kept it fair. You'll still have enough to start over. But the empire you built, the one you flaunted as yours, it's mine now. I'm not forgiving you, Robert. So I'm just taking back what I built with you and what you sold for a fantasy." Robert swallowed hard, clinging to the last shred of his pride. "You'll regret this. You can't live alone, and you know it." Marina let out a soft laugh, not cruel, just weary, as if she'd already outgrown his words. She tilted her head, looked at him one last time, and said quietly, "Regret? Regret was what kept me by your side for 30 years. That's over now." Silence fell between them. The faint clink of a spoon against porcelain sounded like the snap of something invisible breaking. Robert bowed his head, shoulders trembling. Marina stood, straightened her coat. The midday sun spilled across her face, reflecting in eyes no longer clouded by pain, only peace, strength, and freedom. She left the papers on the table and walked away without looking back. Robert sat there watching her go, finally realizing that the woman he once underestimated was the one he would never overcome. And as you listen now, one line from Marina still echoes in your mind. Not buying a house for me was your mistake, Robert. You built it, carefully, deliberately, with my money and with your lies. The cafe door closed softly behind Marina, leaving inside the man who once believed he could never fall. Outside, the midday sun spilled gently over the quiet street. A streak of light brushed across her face, soft, pure, wiping away the last shadow of 30 dark years. She paused at the top of the steps, looking up at the sky. The same sky that had poured rain the night she discovered the truth was now impossibly clear. The sunlight wasn't harsh, it was warm, steady, like a quiet reminder that every storm, no matter how violent, eventually fades. A silver car waited by the curb. Not Robert's luxury sedan, not a symbol of wealth or status, just an ordinary car, yet in Marina's heart, it had a name, freedom. She smiled faintly, started the engine, and turned down a narrow street leading out of the city, the place that had held so many memories and just as many scars. The wind swept through her hair, carrying away the scent of coffee, the dust of the city, and the echoes of all his lies. She didn't look back. There was no need to. Ahead of her stretched an open road, clear, bright, and endless. She didn't know where it would lead, only that for the first time in 30 years, she was the one choosing the direction. Because sometimes justice isn't found in a courtroom. It's found in the way a woman rises and lets the man who betrayed her live inside the ruins he created. What do you think? Did Marina truly win, or did she simply learn the power of walking away at the right moment? Share your thoughts in the comments below.